Hi, and welcome back to Retro Room, and today I want to share with you guys an interview that Robert Coddington did with Michael Alig on Nelson Sullivan in 2014. I would like to thank Robert for allowing me to share this. And you can find many of the videos mentioned in this interview on 5 Ninth Avenue Project YouTube channel, and I will share the link for the channel below.
Calling Michael Alig on July 23rd, 2014.
Hello.
Hey, Michael, this is Robert.
Hi, Robert.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alive and kicking, so it's been a good day off. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, if we get cut off, just immediately hang up, and I'll call you right back. Sometimes the internet's kind of weird when I do these phone calls. Is that cool?
Oh, okay. Huh?
All right. So you just want to start it off? Do you have any questions for me? I know you don't know me. You know. No.
Do I have any questions for you?
Yeah, I mean, or do you have any? I mean, do you want to know like why I'm doing this for Nelson or anything, or we can just start?
Well, I mean, I assume you're doing it because you think it's an important project and that you want as many people to see it as possible. I mean, that's.
There you go.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long labor of love, so let's put it that way.
Right. I mean, that's the reason I'm doing it.
Yeah. Good. So, well, let's just get into it and see what happens. All right. You ready?
Okay.
So,
okay.
So what comes to mind when you think about Nelson?
God, I think he was. I think he was more ahead of his time than any of us ever imagined. I mean, I think it's too much to say, too much of a coincidence to say that it's just a fluke that he was out there, videographing all of this. I think he somehow knew that someday. I think we all knew that someday this was going to be looked upon as a really special time, but he was the only one to capture on film.
Yeah. What word or phrase best describes Nelson?
Ahead of his time. I mean, really. I mean, he was making the original reality shows. I mean, this was, the original freaks on parade. Without putting them in compromising positions because they put themselves in compromising positions. But I mean, it was really the first reality TV.
Yeah, I'd agree. How did you first meet Nelson?
Well, he lived with Larry Chi in La Homa, and then RuPaul. When RuPaul wanted to move to New York, and they needed money to pay for her plane ticket, so they came to me and asked me if I would have Tunnel pay for her ticket, and I did. And they had a party over at Nelson's house, and I went to that party, and I met RuPaul that night. I mean, everybody knew that she had that certain something. Her and Lady Bunny both had, something. Oklahoma had something really, really special about them. They would go on camera and just turn into somebody else, this other character, this larger than life personality, and
You there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Did I cut out?
You cut out for a second. Yeah, I heard larger than life personality.
That La Homa and Larry Chi, La Homa and Lady Bunny and RuPaul were these kind of larger than life characters that you would put in front of a camera crew. You would put in front of a TV camera or a movie crew, and they would just become somebody else. They would become these celebrities, this just, like I said, this larger than life character.
Yeah. What kind of person was Nelson to you?
Nelson was an honest person. He was a loyal person. He was somebody, I don't think he had a mean bone in his body. I don't think he had a vindictive or a vengeful bone in his body. He was about as easygoing as they come. He was about as close as I can assume a pothead from the 60s would be. I mean, just completely unflappable. And, I think it would take a lot to rile him up. And even then, I think his temper would have been short and he would have been easy to forgive.
Do you remember your first impression of him?
My first impression of Nelson?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, and don't take this the wrong way, I thought he was a little bit crazy. But then, you know what? So were all of my friends, and so was I. I mean, I'm sure the first thing that somebody thought of when they saw me and, you know, Amanda and, you know, Kenny walking down the street in our you know, diapers or whatever, they probably thought, too, those people are insane. I mean, all of my friends were insane, and I wouldn't have loved them so much if they weren't insane. They had to be a little bit of insane in order to be part of our group, you know, and Nelson certainly was that. Everybody had their own quirks, their own idiosyncrasies, and Nelson's was that he liked to document everything.
Yeah, so
he was almost like a hoarder, you know. He was a hoarder of images.
That's a good phrase. What do you think inspired Nelson to videotape?
I think he's the kind of person, and I'm that kind of person too. He's the kind of person that sees something, and he wants people to see it. He wants to show it. He wants to share it to people. He wants other people to see it so badly, and he knows there's never going to be any way of him being able to express or explain what this is in words. So he has to capture it on videotape so that he can show it to somebody later on.
Do you know how Nelson supported himself?
Well, he supported himself through my club sometimes. I paid him some money. I paid Larry T and Lahoma and RuPaul money. But other than that, I don't know.
What was his home at 5/9 like? Can you describe the inside?
His home life?
You know, can you describe what it was like being in 5/9, that home?
It sort of, to me, it seemed like being in the Munsters house, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. I mean, from the doorknob that came all the way out the door, you know, you pull the door and it came out like you pull the doorknob and it's not the doorknob, but the doorbell, and it would come out literally a foot, and then it would like snap back in, and the door would open all creaky and cobwebby like the Munsters, and the stairs were uneven and sort of felt like if you stepped on the wrong one, you'd go dropping through like 3 floors, and you could actually see through the floorboards from one floor to the other. And Nelson said that was because the floors were made out of the original floorboards taken from the ships that came over from London, from the UK when they built the house. So, I mean, the house was just full of history, and I mean, it was just really one of those rare houses in New York City that even back then was very difficult to find.
Did Nelson ever talk to you about why he was taping?
No, he never said anything about why he was taping. I mean, I guess to me, it just seemed like everybody, you know, anybody who was in the know just knows that that's what he does, and that's sort of what his purpose is. I think he became sort of a fixture so that people were kind of offended if he didn't come to their party. You know, it was sort of a stamp of approval. If Nelson was there filming, that meant that the happening people in New York City were at that party, and he wanted to film them.
Wow. Do you feel like he had a plan for what he was documenting?
I don't. I think he was just sort of, you know, making tape after tape and kind of piling them up in the living room. You know, I don't think any of us realized just how important this kind of stuff would be. I mean, we threw away invitations and trading cards and stickers and posters and all of these things that to us weren't worth a penny, that today would be worth hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. You know, for many years, Nelson shot a lot of footage at the pyramid, and then suddenly, like in 1987, he stopped taping at the pyramid. Do you have any idea why he did that? Was there something going on, or did the pyramid just stop being hip, or?
It stopped being hip, and also a lot of the people at the pyramid came over to work for my clubs. They worked for Tunnel, they worked for The World, they worked for Danceteria, they worked for Limelight. All of the big clubs were sort of binding period for Pyramid for their talent. And the big clubs could afford to pay them more. So you know what somebody would make $50 worth doing at Pyramid, they might make $200 doing at the Tunnel. And so a lot of them.
You just went out again.
Are you there again?
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh okay.
So what inspired Nelson to spend so much time videotaping you and the club kids?
I think he thought that we were kind of the new blood. We were the youngest people on the scene, and so usually the youngest people on the scene are where the new ideas come from, the fresh concepts. And I think, and also we were kind of the wildest people in the scene. We would do things, we would risk things that 30, 40-year-old people wouldn't risk anymore. So I think we were the risk takers, and we were the fresh blood, and we were the young people. And, I think he enjoyed being around young people a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of him being the older people, Nelson was considerably older than most of you guys. Was he looked on as a mentor, or just another member of the entourage?
He was just another member of the entourage. Age wasn't really a big thing back then. There were people, what's her name? Baroness Sherry. She must have been in her 60s. Rudolph was in his 50s. Larissa was in her 60s. Monique Van Doren was in, 60s, 70s. These people were considered, just fabulous people that went out, and whether they were, 20 or 50, they were just considered really fabulous people.
Wonderful. How did Nelson's friends treat him and his camera?
They were protective of it. I mean, he always went out with a couple of people who were sort of, in front of him, making sure that people weren't bumping into him and clearing the way for him and warning other people there's going to be a man coming with a camera, don't look into the camera, and that kind of stuff. So they, they were different people all the time, but he always had somebody doing that with him.
Right. How did the scene, the circle outside of his friends, how did they treat Nelson?
The what?
The people. How did the scene view him? The people outside of Nelson's inner circle.
Well, if they were part of the scene, they knew who he was. If you knew me and maybe the Bridge and Tunnel people, they kind of ignored him. They kind of figured that he was somebody very special, because otherwise, why would he be allowed to, videotape kind of unencumbered in the nightclub? And so they must have figured maybe he was doing something for a TV show or for a news show or something. And and people like being on camera anyway. Nobody ever had any problem with him.
On an offshoot question, what was Christina's story? Do you know her background?
I know what she says was her background. I don't know how true it was. She says that she was an English teacher from Pittsburgh, from middle school, and she, as a man, Chris Smith, and when she began transitioning, her parents were so embarrassed of her, and
hey, Michael, you just cut out again.
Gave her an allowance as long as she didn't come back.
Wow. All right. Towards the end of Nelson's life, in some of the tapes, he gets bitter that he wasn't included on the flyers of the events that you were hosting. Do you know why he felt like that? Was he just sounding off? Have you seen the?
Yeah, I don't know if he really felt like that, or if he was, like you said, just sounding off. I think he likes to complain on camera. Nelson was included in so many different things. It's kind of not a good thing to be included in everything, because if you're included in everything, then your name no longer means anything, Right. So I always tried to include people in the things that they needed to be included in, or the things that they would benefit from, or that would benefit from having them included in them. So yeah, there were certain events that maybe Nelson wasn't a part of, but you can't be a part of everything. It just doesn't make any sense. But nobody ever excluded him in order to throw shade or anything like that.
Do you remember the last time we saw him?
The last time that I can remember seeing him, and I'm sure there was a time after that, but the last time I can remember seeing him was the opening of Mars. I don't know. I'm sure there were times after that, but that's the last time I can physically remember seeing him.
What impact did knowing Nelson have on your life?
Willie Nelson?
Yeah.
Oh, knowing Nelson.
Knowing, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Willie. What part did country singer Willie Nelson have in your life? Well, I mean, honestly, Nelson made me feel so important. I mean, having somebody follow you. This was before the real camera crews were following us. Before Inside Edition and Access Hollywood and all of those camera crews were following us. It was Nelson, and Nelson made us all feel like celebrities. He made us feel like somebody really cared enough about what we were doing to get it all on tape. And that we must be pretty important, that somebody this cool is documenting everything. He and, I don't know if you know Nat Finkelstein. Nat Finkelstein used to document everything on just regular camera. And he was the same thing. If Nat was around and if Nelson were around, then you could bet you were in the place to be seen, and you were kind of, the core crowd of who's cool. And, that's kind of a powerful thing to have, just to know that whoever you're filming is like the coolest person in the club,
Yeah. What sort of cultural importance do you see in his documentation of New York in that time?
Well, it's a time capsule of a period that can no longer be, and that is of great importance just because it's kind of mythical. It's the end of New York. It's the end of New York fabulosity. It's the end of New York as the center of the world. It's the end of New York culture dominating the world. It's really kind of the fall of Rome, and to have all of that on camera, I think, is really exciting.
Wow, that's a good answer. All right, well, those are all the questions I had, and I must admit, this is the shortest interview I've had, but one of the most concise ones. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you reminded me of Fenton. Fenton had the same sort of responses, so that's good. Just on a side, the guy who's doing your documentary, Glory Days, Ramon, is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're in talks with him about to him. Is there anything that you think you want shown in that? I mean, you want the footage in the movie. With Nelson stuff, I think there's some great clips. Like there was one of you and Nozomi in the bathroom at the Flaunted Club doing an ad. Do you remember that? You probably don't remember doing that. I
do remember doing that. How many videotapes does Nelson have?
There is just under 600, and I mean, we have footage of you starting, right around the Flaunted Club days when you're just starting to, give out flyers and working for other clubs and promoting. So right. There's those. There's your mother's birthday party. There's, the Mars party. New Year's Eve. There's a bunch of stuff. So I wasn't sure if there was anything that that you might remember that you want to get in there. And the McDonald's Outlaw Party, which is fabulous footage.
Have all of the 600 videotapes been documented and gone through?
Yeah, well, not all of them. I would say about 470. We know what's on all the tapes, at least where he was, but I haven't gone through and dissected each tape. That's what I'm doing right now. So I have copies of them here. The original tapes are now being stored in the Fales Library at NYU, part of their downtown collection.
Right.
And so, because Dick Richards, who had been keeping them ever since Nelson died, just realized, he's like almost 70 now, so he wanted to get them into an institution that can keep the tapes physically safe, from the elements.
Right.
So, but I've just been, on my days off, I'm now starting to go through each tape and documenting anything, all the people, the places, and all that to make it easier for the future generations because no one knows it like I do.
I wonder what would happen, how a best of Nelson Sullivan CD collection would sell. DVD collection, I mean.
Well, we've put stuff out before. They sell a little. They probably would do it better now. We've been more concerned just about, keeping this stuff, safe. And now that it's in the Fales, we're happy about that. For the last 10 years, we've been doing exhibitions and film festivals and things of that nature. But now that he's at NYU, all of a sudden, his work is more important. Thank God. I always knew.
Right.
I knew how important it was when I saw it, back in the '90s, and everyone thought I was crazy to be spending so much time, trying to work for this guy who doesn't exist. But I was just like, this is probably the most important thing that came out of the last half of the 20th century.
It is.
Yeah. But when I get off the phone, I'm going to send you. There's a great write up about Nelson in Vice magazine recently. But I'll also send you the link to all of his tapes, and that has sometimes they just say Tunnel Party blah blah blah, or they'll say Michael Alig at the World. But if you search your name, you can see all the tapes that we know you're on already.
Oh, wow!
But there's other tapes that I know that you're on, but we have that's not on that list. But but at least they'll give you that. And most of the people who look at that list, all of a sudden their minds are, oh, I forgot about that party. Oh,
right. I can't wait.
So, but anyway, we're hoping to get licenses stuff on National Geographic, that Investigation Discovery Channel show that did something on you last year. There's a lot of people take Nelson's footage just for what New York looked like back in the day. Well,
that's why I was thinking a DVD collection of the best of,
Yeah, well, we do have some. I mean, there's we have a club. It's called Club Kid Party. If you send me, if you email me your address, I can make copies of. We have 4 DVDs. We have one that's the early Wigstock performances and early Pyramid. We have a couple that are the Club Kid things. So I have the McDonald's Outlaw Party, your birthday with Mary. It was your Christmas party with Kioki and Larry T. And stuff like that. So I'd be more than happy to send you those if you want to watch those.
Yeah, definitely send me those. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll email you my address.
Okay. Well, that's it for the interview. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
You said some wonderful things. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
All right, take care, Michael. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.